What's up, folks? This is Justin Cussman again in your web class here. Starting with another tutorial. This one for the next assignment's worth of stuff. I'm going to show you guys how to do some links and things of that nature. So just looking at what we're doing here as far as classes go. Let me talk about the assignment and make sure everybody is doing the same things in the correct order. So the second assignment, first things first, from the first assignment, just make sure I get that video of you at some point embedded in this week one assignment. The video is actually how I take your attendance. So I'm going to need you to actually do that video and have that in there pretty quick and turn that in as soon as you can. Try not to be late on that assignment because that's how I take your attendance. So week two, what you guys are going to be doing this week is linking, right? I'm going to have you add some more stuff to your websites and then link them together. I'm going to show you how to add images, how to do all kinds of different stuff, lists, things like that. And then I'm going to leave it up to you to find some stuff online and do a little bit of research. So first things first, what I'm going to show you guys how to do is fairly important. Embedding images in your pages, doing titles, headers, things of that nature, pretty important stuff. Basically everything from here on up. How do we do that? Okay. Now, the most important thing, what I'm going to show you how to do, the very first, is how to do a linked two pages. How to link two pages together, because that's pretty important. Links on websites are really, really that's the whole thing that makes a website is being able to link to other things with hypertext. So just a brief thing. Hypertext, hyperlinks, those are the things we're going to be creating. HTML, hypertext markup language. We take this index file for starters, and we actually duplicate it to get our second page. Now, there's lots of other ways you could do this, but this is definitely the fastest way. What we're going to do is either right-click on this thing or do a keyboard command, however you want to do it. I'm just going to copy it, and I'm going to click in this folder, and I'm going to paste it. Okay, so now I've got a copy of my index HTML. Remember, index.html is always, forever what your home page needs to be named. Okay, so index.html, I've copied this. Now, the name of this can vary. Okay, this can be all kinds of different stuff. The important thing, I would suggest you keep this lowercase and you don't put any spaces in there. Servers that these run on do not like spaces. They don't like uppercase. Let's just say this is going to be an about page. I would just name it about HTML. Okay, so you have your home page, which is always named index, and then I've got the about HTML. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to delete this zip file that's in there, and I'm going to make a new folder, and I'm going to call this images. Okay, this is something that's fairly important. When you want to add images and insert images into your design work on the web, you generally want to have these pictures in a different folder. Okay, you don't have to do this, but this is an organizational schema that's just a really good idea. You're going to end up with a lot of graphics on a website, and keeping those separate is just a really good idea for organizational purposes. Keep it all lowercase, name it IMG or images or something of that nature. And I'm going to use that in a minute. Okay. Let me go ahead and crack open this about, and we're going to start to make some links and add some content and things like that. So I'm going to open up this. Right-click and open with Dreamweaver, or you can open up Dreamweaver itself, or any other editing program, remember, and do File Open, and you can snag that file and bring it in here. Okay, so and I've currently got. I'm going to open both of these. I'm going to open the index, which I just opened, and also the About page. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and open both of those up. So both of those are in my tabs up top here. Again, hence the reason why you name these, and so you can tell what's what. So right out of the gate, a good trick. I'm going to zoom in a little bit with Command or Control Plus to zoom in. You can see what I'm doing. The very first thing I want to do is change this title tag. Okay, if this is a different page, this needs to be different. Okay, so maybe this is the week one about, or this is going to be the week two. I should change the first one as well. Week two website about page. Okay, that's what I want to title that. And back in the first one, again, make this easy on yourself. I'm going to copy this chunk. And I'm going to paste it in here and title this homepage. So now my title, I'm going to save this, Command S or Control S, save it on both of them. Okay, and so now I've got a title that's different on both of these. And I can open it up in the browser and check, but I'm pretty confident that's going to be okay. All right, so far, all I've got on these 2 pages is just a chunk. Remember, everything goes inside the body section, right? So I'm actually going to clear out the body section for starters. We did this last week, how to add an iframe and how to add some things inside paragraph tags and stuff like that. Okay, body tag is completely open. All right, now I'm on my index page. The very first thing I'm going to do here is create a link to that second page. Okay, so links in HTML all work like this. You open up a tag, a tag. The A tag is a link, A space href. Okay, what does that mean? I got equals and quotation marks. Close your bracket. Oop, make sure it doesn't automatically close out or inside the quotation marks. This right here is the correct, let me zoom in a little bit, is the correct setup for a link, okay? What this stands for, you got your A, and anytime you see A in HTML, that means it's a link of some kind, okay? href stands for hypertext reference, okay? Hypertext is a link. Any link you see on any page on the web is called hypertext. That's old school talk. Reference is a link. This is where the link goes, okay, inside quotation marks. In HTML and CSS, anytime you see quotation marks, that's asking for a proper name of something. In this case, what I'm doing here, if I look at my folder, okay, I've got my index page in this folder and this about page in this folder. This folder is on my desktop, right? I'm working from this folder on my desktop. Okay, that's the idea. If these HTML files are in the same folder, which they are, index and about are in the same folder, all you have to do over here, this is why you want to keep all your HTML files in the same spot. All you've got to do is say, hey, href, what do I want to link to? This is going to be my home button, okay? So I put the name of the HTML file that it's supposed to link to in here, index.html, and then I put the text that I want to click. The text that I want to click that shows up on screen is here. Okay, so if I save this and I open this in whatever, let's say Chrome, bingo, I've got a link. Now I click this and it goes back to itself. This is a reference I've made to my home index page. This is my home page, okay? I'm actually going to put something on here to designate this as my home page, and this will give you another something to work with. So here's something else. That's how we make a link. I'm going to do this again in a second on the next page to show you how to tie these 2 pages together. But first, I want to differentiate my content for my pages. So I'm going to go ahead and make a title tag. Okay, so title tags, pretty important. Title tags are H tags. Okay, or not title tags, sorry. Heading tags. Makes more sense with an H. Heading tags, H1, H2 through H10. Okay, they go through H10 by default. Okay, open tag, close tag. Let me do the open tag there. It automatically added my close tag. H10. Okay, now we'll never use H10, so we usually just do H1 through H3 or so. But there are 10 available heading tags. I'm actually going to take off 10 because that's too far down the rabbit hole. I'm going to do H1 and H2. Okay, and I'm going to put the title of the home page. And I'm going to put the same thing in my H1 and my H2 tag to show you the difference here. Let me open up this page and refresh this. This is the difference with title tags, okay? H tags, by default, are headings, okay? Now, what does this mean? Anytime, just think page layout, okay? Basic page layout. If I had something that was important on a page, like a section that again, is going to be a title that says home page. If I want people to know this is my homepage and I've got some text underneath this that explains things about my homepage, this title tag serves stylistically to be larger and give emphasis, right? If I put some paragraph text, remember last time we used the paragraph tag beforehand? I'm just going to put some text here and I'm just going to copy and paste this a bunch of times to show you. Save that, refresh. There's the difference, okay? My titles are much chunkier, right? They're bigger. They have a specific designation. Now, I can change the look and feel of this quite a bit. We're going to get into that later with CSS. But the difference is these are default tags you can use to differentiate between where headings are and where body copy is. Body copy is just the regular text of your page, okay? Now, this does something else that's really important. I want you guys to know that this H tag, this text title tag, is mostly what informs Google of what's on your specific pages, okay? Search engine optimization, SEO is what we're talking about here. Anytime you put an H tag on a website, Google is going to read this, an H1 through an H10. H1s get the most search rank. H1s, Google looks into your page. Google has spiders, which what they're called, that crawl into your page and look for these H tags. It'll look at these H tags and go, oh, okay, I see that this page says homepage on it. So the content below here is probably going to be about the homepage, right? So that's the idea, is if you make legible titles that people can read and that make sense, Google knows what's on your website. That increases your SEO. Use H tags a lot and make them obvious, okay? And Google will search your page better. That's better for page rank. It's a little SEO tip. So that's H tags, H1 through H10. Each one is successively smaller, okay? If I copy and paste this, change it to H3, you will see that by default, that is a smaller chunk of heading than the next. That's the only thing they're used for, is you can make designated styles for these and use them all over your pages, okay? So I've got some content. I've got some headings. I've got some body text. I've got a link to differentiate my home page from my about page, okay? So what I'm going to do real quick here is I'm going to take everything. This is a great way to do this. Take everything that I've got inside this body section, and I can paste it here in the body section of my second page, okay? So now, instead of home page, I'm going to change everything that says home to about. I know this is my about page. Now, I'm going to get rid of my H2s and my H3s because that's just going to be confusing, right? But what I've got here now is 2 pages. This content on this page, let me right-click and open it in Chrome. The content on the about page is different than the content on my home page, right? Makes it easier to see when I'm paging through these to make sure my links work properly, okay? So now what I'm going to do, now that the content of my home page is different than the content of my about page, it makes it easier to see what's happening here. I'm going to link these two together, okay? All you got to do, and yes, inherently it gets more complicated than this when we get into setting up nav bars later on, but inherently to link 2 pages together, this is all you have to do. You go copy paste on your href. You have 2 hrefs. One is for the home page. This one changes. You change the origin file. What file do I want to link to? You look in your folder, about HTML, right? That's the file I want to link to. That's my about page. That's what I've been working in up here. Change this to about. Save. And now, if I refresh this home page, check it out. Now, this text still says home, so let me change that to about. Save. Bingo. Okay, I'm even going to go so far as to do old school 90s design and put a little dash in there. I've got a nav bar. This is a nav bar, a functioning navigation bar. You click home, it goes to the home page. You click about, it goes to the about page. Now, if you notice, I can't get back home. I can get back home because on my about page, I left a link up there. I accidentally changed that to say about. But I've already added the link up here that goes back to my home page, right? But here's something that's just a kind of a hack. What you want to do to make your life easier, you rig up, and again, for any number of pages, 100 pages, it works the same way. You rig up your navigation first, okay? Because I know these navigations work. I tested them. Like this one goes to the index page, the home page. This one goes to the about page. If I want this navigation on a separate page, all I've got to do, copy, Control-C or right-click copy, okay? Go to your about page, take the navigation section here, delete it, switch it out, paste. Boom. Exactly the same thing. Because the reason this works, if I save this and test it, let's just give it a rip and see if it works. Refresh. Aha. Home page, about page. Okay. Notice no matter where I'm at, this linking is universal now. Okay. Because it's the same code, right? That's one of those hacks I want you guys to get used to doing is copying, pasting everything inside web design. If something works properly, okay, I could rig up 50 pages here if I wanted to. Test them all out. Copy and paste that code to your subsequent pages because you know it works. Okay, that's making a nav bar. Now, it's an ugly nav bar. Okay, this is hideous, and we're going to figure out how to style this later when we get into CSS, but it's functional, and that's where I want you guys to be at this point. It's functional. Okay, let me show you something else really important. Let me go back to the home page. Adding images. Okay, adding images to HTML. We've already got, if you think about this logically, we've already got already the bones of how to do an HTML page. We've got text. We have the ability to change the colors of text with some of the stuff we did last week. We can add videos. I showed you how to embed a video from YouTube. We want pictures, right? Pictures are the other chunk of stuff that's available, and that's essentially out there for you to choose to make web designs look good, right? We need pictures for media. How do we do that? How do we get pictures on a website? Well, first thing you have to have is the pictures, okay? So the thing here is that you're either gonna have to take these pictures yourself for this assignment, which is the preferred way of doing it, email them to yourself, and I'll show you how to downsize them to get them on the web here in a minute, or go to a copyright-free stock photo site like Morguefile. Okay, Morguefile.com is one I use for all kinds of different stuff. Great website for copyright-free stuff, okay? Now, I don't even care what photo I have in this website. I'm just gonna search for something random, like hat. Okay, so the way you get these things off this website, and again, maybe I'll put this weird guy in here. This would be a great example to show you how horizontal pictures align. I'm gonna grab this photo and I'm gonna download it, okay? Now, by default, basically every photo, let me show this in the folder, every photo you put on the web is gonna be too big. Let me copy this photo real quick though. Now, by default, I'm gonna copy this, put this in my week 1 page in the images folder. Okay, I'm gonna paste this in here. Okay, now, a couple things, a couple very important things here. By default, this image, and every image you're gonna get off the internet, almost always is gonna be too large, okay? The pixel dimensions are too big, the file size is too big. The biggest thing with putting in images on the web is you have to convert them to go on the web. 500 kilobytes doesn't seem like a lot, but it is. We want our images smaller than this by a long shot. Probably about 100 kilobytes would be good. Also, the name of this is garbage, okay? One very, very important thing about making images for the web, Google reads the image tag, and that helps with SEO, okay? So any of your images need to be named something for what it's in the website. You have to name these in a verbose way and figure out what people are searching and name that something that people would search, okay? It's a good idea. But first, before I even do any of that, I need to convert this thing. This is way too big. The way to do this properly is to take this thing into Photoshop, okay? Yes, there's a million other programs you could use for this with the similar processes, but I'm gonna show you Photoshop because everybody in the industry uses Photoshop, and that's what you need to see, okay? So here's what you do, very simple. Unlock the background by clicking this little lock over here. It's your layers palette if you haven't used Photoshop before, we don't even need this, okay? Just ignore that. What we need to do is go to image size, okay? Go to your image size, and what anything that goes on the web ever, convert it to pixels, change your resolution right out of the gate to 72, okay? Anything that goes on the web is at 72 resolution, 72 pixels per inch. It has to be there. Now, the size of the actual pixels themselves are negotiable. That just depends on how big you want the image to be. But a good kind of a basic byword here, or at least a rule, is that these pixel dimensions, however dense and large, or at least detailed you want the image to look, the larger the pixels get, okay? I would suggest taking this down to the large size, whatever size is largest here. Okay, it's obviously a vertical image, okay? It's one that's supposed to be portrait. I'm gonna take the largest number and dial it down to 2,000 pixels, okay? It's a good rule of thumb. 2,000 pixels is probably as big as you wanna go at 72 resolution for this. Click OK. It resizes my photo, makes it smaller. Then what you wanna do, this is fine. And then you can do anything you want to it, add text to it, whatever you wanna do in Photoshop. But the important thing, file, export, save for web legacy. This is pretty slick. This is something that's inside Photoshop that's specifically geared towards saving things out for the web. Do save for web legacy. This brings us into some pretty important stuff. Okay, what this palette does, I've just zoomed out over here. It does a bunch of stuff. Biggest things it does. Here. This is the default for basically every web graphic, okay? Every web graphic, for the most part, except for WebP, which is a new one, which we'll talk about later, falls into these categories. JPEG, 99 times out of 100, choose JPEG. JPEG is for photographic style images that you want to put on the web. Always go with this as your default. JPEGs are meant to be for the web. They're meant to be compressed. They're a lossy format. Lossy means the smaller quality I take this thing down. Look, we have a little slider that says medium, or I can use this slider here to designate a specific quality. The lower the quality, take this way down. This thing throws out data to make a smaller file size. Check this out. We can even see what the file size is here. This is now at a 0% quality, is a 57 kilobyte file. This is substantially smaller than before. I can even zoom in and see what kind of quality this has. This is getting pretty pixelated. The lower quality you get, this is what lossy means, the more these pixels get mooshed together, okay? If I go higher quality, look at how distinctive those pixels are. Lower quality looks weird. That's called artifacting. JPEGs actually throw out color data to make the file smaller. That's what this does. What you want to do is find a happy medium here. Okay, I'm going to zoom out a little bit. Man, at 26% quality, this is still very obvious what this is. 73K, anything under 100 is dynamite. That's perfect, okay? I'm going to save it just like this. Now, some other things, PNG files. PNG files are for transparency when you want transparent logos floated on top of stuff. GIFs, you can call it a GIF if you want, but you're a weirdo. GIFs are for animated stuff generally, which we'll get into later how to do that. JPEGs is what you want, okay? Save. Put this thing in the folder that all the rest of your web stuff is in, the images folder I just made, and rename it. If this thing is again, what will people search to find this? Maybe this is London -guard or something of that nature, right? You can even get really verbose with this. I could put London guard wearing hat and red uniform. The more verbose you get, the better, because that helps with keyword searches when people are plugging things into the internet. Google looks at all this stuff and indexes it, right? So I'm going to save that. Okay. So that's the optimization process. Now, if I wanted to, I could get rid of this original image. If I know this thing is going to stay small, I wouldn't do this. It's not a great idea. But I would move this to another folder, keep it out of this images folder. You don't want to blow this images folder up too large. I'm going to delete that or house it somewhere if you need it later, okay? But this is what I want to work with, the optimized file. Now I'm going to go ahead and copy the name on this. I would recommend this is how you do it. Go in, single click it, and copy, highlight it and copy the name on it, because in the next step, how do I get this image into my page, okay? Now, I'm on my home page here. Let me minimize some stuff. I'm on my home page, index.html, right? Let's say I want this image to show up right down here underneath everything else, the last thing in my body, okay? Here is how you add an image to HTML. img src equals quotation marks. Now notice, this is very similar to what we just set up here. href equals quotation marks, right? img means image. src means source. Okay, where is this image sourced from? This is where it's sourced from. Now, what you've got to do here, okay, this makes sense if you think about this. Think about the way computers handle files. This is kind of important to know this. We are inside a folder, which is a source. This is a destination. Inside this folder on my desktop, on my computer, I have got a subfolder called images, okay? When we're talking computer lingo in HTML, that's what this is asking for. It's saying, hey, this source, what folder am I supposed to be in? If you don't put a folder in there, like here, it defaults to inside that folder. It defaults to inside this week 1 web page folder, because this is where the source is, okay? If there's a subfolder called images, I need to put that in there. If I type in images, look at this, check it out. It's already starting to ask. A good text program, a source HTML program will do this for you. It says, hey, I see there's an images folder in here. IMAGES, you can even click it, / in computer lingo. Okay, when we're talking about programming, which is kind of sort of what we're doing here. / means to go from a top directory, which is a folder, into, look, it's over one, right? / means good to go into a subdirectory, which is where this images folder. You can even see the cascade looks similar. We've got main folder, and then inside images / I've got londonguard.jpg. If I've copied the name, I can just paste it in there. It has to be exactly that name. Okay. If you miss it, if there's a space in there, it's not going to work. If you've capitalized something here and it's not capitalized in here, it's not going to work. It's got to be exactly the same. Okay. Once that's exactly the same, I can save this, go back to my web page, refresh, check it out. Okay. Now, the problem with this is this image is gargantuan. Okay. And check it out. Everybody has seen this these days. If you close your browser, you grab the corner of your browser, which is what I'm doing right now, and collapse this. This is a life hack. This is something very special you can do, like I'm going to show you on Lindenwood's website. Okay. With all, I don't know if you know this or not, but this is something everybody should do. To see what something looks like on mobile, all you have to do with a website is grab the corner of it here, grab the edge of it, and crush it, right? And this, notice, this website converts out to what this thing looks like on mobile. I got the hamburger menu. I've got all the different stuff fits. Like as I scroll this window, notice how these images resize to fit my browser, right? Currently, that's called responsive web design. Currently, old school web design, this is not responsive. If I grab this corner, this image does not reflow. It doesn't resize. What I've got to do, by default, this image comes in full size. I've got to put a piece of HTML in here. Okay, so for every image, forever, whenever you do web design, always width equals quotation marks. Okay, this determines the width of the actual picture. What I'm going to do is put 100% in there. Now, I could tell this. We know from Photoshop the width of my image, if I go to image size, is 1300 by 2000. Okay, I could put a width of 13 by 100 in here in pixels, but it's automatically doing that. If I do 1300 px in here and save it and refresh my image, nothing changes. Okay, it redressed a little bit because I've set the specific size for it. It was kind of trying to fit automatically in there. But I can change this however I want. If I change this to 1,000 pixels or 100 pixels, it will smush my image inside there. Now notice it did it proportionally. Okay, I can even define a height. You never want to do this, but I can. If I define a height in here, it will override the default and it will stretch my image. Look how it smushed it. Okay, the image is smushed in there, right? Never do this. What you want to, and you'll see this, sometimes people who don't know what they're doing with web design will set the width and height. Some programs automatically designate your width and height in pixels. When you work with WordPress, it does that. What you'd want to do is override that. Always put your image width in percentages. The two ways you can show something in HTML is in pixels and percentages. This will make the picture the width of whatever you've put it inside of. In this case, the browser. Okay. So now if I change this to 100%, yes, it's huge, but it fits squarely within my browser. Check this out. When I reflow my browser, when I rescale, something special happens. Aha, the image rescales with it proportionally, right? Now on mobile, if I'm on mobile view, this image fits perfectly in here, okay? That's the trick. Now, I can even take this less. If 200 is too big, I could take this down to 50%. And then whatever size my browser is, this picture will retain 50% width of that browser, right? So when you lay in images, that's the trick. The trick of laying in images is to go through and add them in this fashion. And that's what I'd like you guys to do, is play around with adding images inside here. Play around with styling things using paragraphs, using text tags, using heading tags, things like that. And just do your design from top down, okay? Try to just do a two-page design from top down. and essentially go through and lay in images and text to try to get some sort of a basic page and then link them together, okay, and make these two pages distinctively different. That's kind of the idea here. Okay. Now, there's some other stuff that I'm going to have you guys do. And again, each week I'm going to have you guys do a little bit of investigative web design here. And one of the things I'm going to have you guys do is forms. There's a lot of places you guys can get forms. Now, forms are pretty easy to set up. I'm even going to direct you to where to look for this. Okay. W3 Schools shows you how to set up HTML forms. If you just Google HTML forms, you can even work through how to make a little form. Now, it's pretty straightforward. It's a form tag, open and close here. But I want you to show this. I want you to go through some of these forms, and there's a lot of different things I'm having you look up with forms that are just basic HTML tags that I'm going to have you Google and try to add to this website. I want you to do a little bit of investigative stuff yourself, okay? This thing, again, one thing that I'm going to have you do when you're finished, though, and I might not have shown you this last time. When you get this thing all set up and you're ready to rock and it's done, you got your images in here. Notice I got an image folder. Inside this folder, I got HTML files. I would like you to go through, select this file, and compress it. Okay, right-click it and add to zip file if you're on PC, or compress it on Mac. And that gives you this zip file, which is substantially smaller and easier for me to see. This is what I would suggest you do. Zip it, upload this to Canvas. Now, if you're testing this, if you send this to someone, be aware that if you just double-click it on PC, now Mac automatically, if you double-click something, unzips it into a folder. PC does not. If you're on PC and you double-click it, it's going to go inside that folder, and everything's going to look broken. You can double-click inside here, and these pages, the index and the about page, won't load correctly. They won't load your images right. Things will be busted. You've got to unzip this file on your computer to actually view it properly after you download it. You won't have to worry about that yet. But when we get into templates and stuff like that, we'll have to worry about that. So there you go. And now, again, since I'm having you guys do some investigative stuff on your own, what I would like you to do is come to me with any questions. If you've got issues with this while you're working on it, I would like you to hit me up on that Teams link that I posted in the first week. Or you can just message me on Canvas and tell me you'd like to set up a time to talk. That's fine. I got plenty of office hours available during the week. Usually it's from about 2 to 5. Come talk to me virtually, and we can work this stuff out if you have any issues. So far, it's pretty simple, but anything you come up across, we can narrow that down. You can come to me and we can ask about it, have some kind of collaborative stuff. So that's your assignment for this week. I want you to work on making a 2-page website. It's going to be linked together, pretty simple, straightforward. You're going to add some forms to it and some pictures. Hopefully that makes sense. If not, hit me up and I can clarify. Have a good one.